Hi, we're Karen and Simon.
We're coaches with over 100 years' experience in being human and currently living in Bristol in the UK.
A coffee chat about emotions and being human and the challenges our coaching clients face led us to this series of videos.
We aim to share our thinking and experiences to help you navigate the mayhem of working life. So, let's get going. Hi, Simon. How are you doing?
Hi, Karen. I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So today, really excited to be talking about cognitive fitness. Sounds a bit jargony, doesn't it? But yeah, it's really good. But let's first kind of introduce ourselves. So I'm Karen Walsh. I'm a coach, a team coach, and a psychologist. I'm really kind of loving talking about these things and us thinking together about various concepts that we've already started discussing in our YouTube channel. So yeah, today's cognitive fitness and how that helps us at work. So Simon, introduction?
Yeah, so Simon Shaw. I'm a baby coach. I've been developing my coaching techniques and my coaching philosophies, military background, and just really enthusiastic about helping people.
Right, thank you. Right, so gonna share the screen. So today, yeah, talking about cognitive fitness. So you might be thinking, what is cognitive fitness? So here's just kind of one definition. The definitions tend to vary between the UK and the States. The States seem to focus more on well-being and how we're feeling. In the UK, it's around thinking styles. So thinking in the right ways at the right time with flexibility, agility, and strength. So those are the three core elements of cognitive fitness. It's that flexibility, agility, and strength. And we'll talk about more of those in a few minutes. And so why would I want to be talking about this and how might it help us as managers or kind of people in the work environment? Well, it helps us to be more focused and more productive at work. It helps us with better decisions, helps with problem solving. It enhances our reputation. So if we're able to kind of, it's a way, I guess, in terms of keeping our cool in work scenarios when the pressure's on in particular, that particularly that agility is really helpful when the pressure's on. And it helps with resilience, better resilience. There are many definitions of resilience. So here we're talking about the capacity to recover quickly from setbacks. And what I'm talking about today is based on some research from Dr. Fiona Beddoe-Jones. She did a webinar a CPD webinar for psychologists a couple of years ago, and it was just really interesting. And I've kind of held on to it since and found it really useful. So I thought I might share that today. So a little bit more about cognitive fitness. So Fiona talks about three pillars of cognitive fitness. And I talked about before about flexibility. So flexibility is about adopting different strategies according to the demands of the situation and how we are and how other people are as well. So what's kind of going on. Another area is around agility. So that's the speed of response. So are we able to kind of respond quite quickly when things change, when we need to be adaptable? And do we have that self-awareness to know what's going on inside us in terms of our emotional state and our physical state, for example, and on our how well performing we are to be able to adapt to the needs of the situation. And then strength. So this is a little bit around courage, around that mental toughness, that grit, that resilience, if you like, of bouncing back when there are setbacks, and just being able to kind of keep going on. I was listening to the radio this morning and they were talking about stubbornness in entrepreneurs. So many entrepreneurs, people are kind of founders of organizations and entrepreneurs tend to have that really strong mental toughness and courage. And that kind of stubbornness, if you like, around belief in their product or their service that enables them to keep going and jump through all those setbacks. And quite often as well, these people enjoy like problem solving, which is all about flexibility and agility as well. They're kind of very, very similar. So those are three pillars, and we might come back to them in a bit. And then she talks about 5 steps to improving cognitive resilience. And this can apply to many different ways of thinking or being or showing up or leading or managing at work. So our starting point is usually an awareness. So that goes from a place of um, not knowing what we're good at or what we're bad at, just completely not being aware of this thing called cognitive fitness, for example. So the next step might be kind of awareness around becoming more aware of our strengths and our weaknesses with, respect to these 3 pillars that we talked about. And that active development, so deliberate practice to try and improve in one or another of those things. And the idea is that you just focus on one thing at a time and just improve that and then adopt another thing. So if you take on too much, quite often it's not a sign of cognitive fitness because you're taking on too much and becomes overwhelmed. And then refining, which kind of is the ongoing improvement to kind of get to that place of cognitive fitness. And what I talked about with what Fiona talked about was she was a psychologist supporting people on this spine race. So you might not have heard about spine race. So it's an endurance race. It's absolutely brutal. So it's run. It starts. The first spine race was in the UK in the Pennines, so the whole of the Pennine Way, which is nearly 300 miles. They do it in winter, so when there's only 8 hours of lightness rather, and there might be snow, there might be ice, there might be wind, there might be rain. Nighttime temperatures might drop to -10. It's a non-stop race. There's 10,000 meters of ascent. It's absolutely brutal. And they have a time limit of doing it within 7 days, which on average sounds like, 38 miles a day doesn't sound too much. But under those conditions, when you're going so
Yeah.
slow at night and sleep deprived and all the other stuff, it's really, really tough. So, and cognitive fitness is really, they found is an important part of kind of resilience. So Fiona looked at those who didn't finish and those who did finish, tried to kind of tease out where the differences were. So the common things that she found in those who didn't finish were things like they underestimated the terrain, they didn't realize how tough it was, or they overestimated themselves. So they thought they'd breeze through it when it was a completely unrealistic expectation of themselves. Um, they maybe weren't self-sufficient enough, so quite needy of other people in terms of not having the skills or needing other people around to help make decisions, and maybe not cognitively fit, so not able to think forwards enough. They might beat themselves up. If they make a setback, they kind of spend a lot of time beating themselves up rather than just getting on with it and getting through it and focusing on what's coming up ahead. They might be kind of ruminating about things, mistakes they made in the past. And when they become stressed, they may become unstable. So they might flip out, become overwhelmed, and not kind of pulling themselves together quick enough to kind of continue. And then maybe kind of quite doggedly continuing when really they need that strategy to change. And all of these requires cognitive fitness, to know when to change, to know your limits, to be able to manage that's the skills, to understand the skills that you need for an event like this and to kind of skill up on those skills. And then she looked at finishers as well. So interestingly, you might imagine like everybody had this really competitive drive, and that might be the key factor. But she found only 19% of the finishers had this really strong drive to win. She found 22% were quite laid back, but still fairly independent. They weren't too needy on other people, were quite independent and relaxed. And 60% were quite social and interdependent, which might sound like contradiction in terms, but it's like that mutual support of each other is kind of quite important in these kind of events. Um, and that sociability can help. But sometimes, there are some people who are very independent who can get through it as well. So there's quite a mix of different personality types, if you like, and mindsets that help people get through this. And then how does this apply to working life? So she suggests that how this applies to working life is like self-monitoring of our cognitive and our emotional states is really important. So our emotional, physical states, and we talked about this a lot of this in presentations, haven't we? Around or in other webinars that we've done around the importance of self-monitoring, that self-awareness of how am I feeling right now? Oh yeah, I can feel frustration building up. I need to do something about this, and then addressing the issues before it becomes critical. So I don't know, many of us have got super stressed in our jobs. And when I was aware, there was a time when I was kind of stressed and kind of almost, yeah, I guess quite ill. I had to have time off work to recover. Um, so I knew I was stressed, but I couldn't address the issue. For whatever reason, I was felt really stuck and felt I had to continue in this treadmill of burnout. And I wasn't able to adapt and to address the issues before they became critical. Sometimes spirals of negative thinking can catch us up. So if we're really hard on ourselves or if we're very blaming of other people, they can quite sometimes just catch us out and and we struggle to be cognitively fit. They suggest that um, surrounding yourselves with positive people, so other people who are committed, optimistic, who can support us, and also kind of lean on us a little bit for support are really, really helpful. And that mutual support, so it's not all one way. So we're not finding ourselves managing and supporting other people to the detriment of ourselves is quite key. So yeah, so those are all kind of all those things. That's all the slides. Yeah. So, Simon, I've kind of whizzed through that and just kind of, yeah, I want to, what's, I'm thinking about your time as a pilot and leadership in the forces. And yeah, does anything there sound resonate for you? What stands out for you?
Oh, so much of it does. I mean, I agree with you. I think there's almost a cruelty to uh, finding this stuff out is often when you are at a low. You know, when someone says to me, "Oh, we need to work on your cognitive fitness," and you have this realization that there's so much that you're not aware of, that self-awareness. Um, but yeah, so just so fundamentally important to have a basis, a line in the sands, a reference for normal, I guess, and that takes time and practice, doesn't it?
Mm. Yeah, and I completely agree. Sometimes other people see that when we're struggling before we do. And it's really, I guess it's really good advice. If someone says something, it's like, oh, okay, I need to check in with that. And sometimes it's just making time out, isn't it, when we're stressed and developing those skills in advance. I think that's what
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
emphasizing, which is I think what your training really involved, wasn't it? Developing those resilience skills to be able to adapt in the moment.
yes, yeah, and I love the way it's termed fitness because that ties in an idea of muscular fitness. You know, this idea of a small amount of training regularly to keep to keep your fitness up and to link that to your cognitive strength or your cognitive um, resilience. I think is really clever. I love that idea. I think that's really a really good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes we think our thinking styles are fixed or they're genetic, but this is very
Mm,
much like it's just like building a muscle. It's a skill. We can all learn it if we're motivated to do so. Yeah, and there are many benefits to it in our personal lives as well as work lives. Yeah.
yeah, very much. It when I look back at my military life, do you know, most of it was accidental. I always describe it a bit like being um, some kind of unguided missile. You're really, uh, you can give it 100%. You probably stand out from the most of society for that basic sense of resilience that you can just keep going, but you don't really have. There's no refinement to that. That only came in my when I started to study this stuff, and when I was mature enough to self-reflect and to realize that I had strengths and weaknesses. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot here that, like you say, that self-awareness leading to self-regulation. That's the goal: self-regulation and understanding yourself so that you can help others and be the best leader possible.
Mhm. And of those three pillars, were there any, do you think, I'm wondering if there was a maybe an emphasis on strength in the military around toughness and resilience at the expense of other kind of those pillars.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We know, don't we, that we've done webinars and we ask that, I think, of a group, what do you think about when you think about military leadership? And yeah, quite a few of those strength related words came out. Um, but I would turn that, I would actually turn that around a bit and say flexibility and agility are probably equally, if not more important. And only because no matter how good your plan is, it will only last the first 20 seconds. And I think when we mash those three flexibility, agility, and strength together in a Venn diagram, there'll be a huge overlap, and that's where a lot of military leadership comes from. It's that being comfortable to be flexible, and then at the same time be equally comfortable to just jump quickly in terms of being agile. And um, and actually, that's when the majority of the stress comes in. Even in the military, you see that where you're asking people to be all three at the same time, to have three
Mm.
equally open minds to three equal options here. Um, so all of this rings true, and yeah, I just think it's really interesting. And for those that haven't done a an endurance challenge, that just do one and learn about yourself, because I think we both know, don't we, that physical endurance is an amazing way to learn about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And what comes to mind is the coaching clients, the managers that I coach, and quite often managers are so operational and so action oriented. It's having that space and time to step back and think and to be a bit more strategic. So that's around the cognitive flexibility, if you like. So starting to be flexible. And I had a coaching client this morning actually who was just kind of really impressed. I think you could have written a book on this, on your approach. And he's more recently, so he's just had a second baby and he's realized family time is really important and he needs to be more focused at work. So he decided, like on a Monday morning, spends an hour planning his week. So being strategic, thinking about what's his week going to be like. And then every morning have 10 minutes, right? What am I going to deliver today? What am I going to focus on? He's dropped the meetings that he felt was unimportant or felt bored in, that he wasn't making a contribution to. And he thought at first that there might be complaints and stuff, but then he realized that no one said anything when he just politely declined these boring meetings where he's feeling really impatient. And now he's able to get on with work and he's being super productive. So that's a really good example of flexibility and that agility. So been aware that, oh, this meeting's really frustrating. Okay, I'm not, or I'm losing patience. I'm not contributing. So that awareness of what was going on for him and then just doing something about it. So, and then just like mini experiments and then sticking with the things that are working and just super impressed at his level of um, productivity. Yeah, and had really good feedback as well in terms of he's on a leadership development program and had good feedback in response to things that he's working on. So that suggests to me an awful lot of really lots of flexibility and agility and um, maybe not so much strength because it all depends on the situation, doesn't it? What it requires in the moment, but he's certainly flexing and developing those muscles, if you like, around cognitive fitness, and it's working well for him. So, so yeah, so what it kind of works for managers, doesn't it? And the importance of just taking a bit of time out, think about what am I doing here and what's going on, and yeah, that self awareness, um, and managing your state as well. So he realised he was bored, and when he's bored, he switches off, he starts doing emails and stuff, and that's not really helpful for the meeting. And like, let's get out of it, and it worked for him.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get it like I did for years. You can get away with leading and managing, uh, and dabbling in all these things, but it's only when you actually drill down into take the time and the effort to for that self-reflection. And I'm looking at the very bottom item on that courage list, forgiveness. Yeah, it starts with
Mm.
forgiveness. It starts with, like, this is me now. I'm going to start a learning journey, and I'm just going to try and be the best version of me that I can be.
Yeah, so not beating ourselves up too much when things go wrong or we made a mistake.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
just getting on
absolutely.
and okay, I'm human. Right, let's go on. Let's learn and move on. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really helpful.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. So any final reflections?
Uh, it, this is really useful. I'm going to take this through to when I go back into a military environment, and I'm going to invite the young leaders who I will be working with to take that list away and decide, what are you comfortable with? Honestly, what
Mm,
are you comfortable? How comfortable are you? I think for some, flexibility is really reassuring because you're going to bend, but you're always going to go back to your little comfort zone. Whereas agility can be really frightening because you're going to potentially jump out of your comfort zone and you're never going back. So little things like that, just little ideas like that, I think are going to be really useful going forward.
mm. Yeah, and one way to work with these three pillars is to invite people to like identify one strength in each of those pillars and then maybe one weakness. And that really helps to, looking at our strengths and our weaknesses, and then what do we want to work on next can be really helpful. So that starts to raise awareness, which is that first step in developing it, isn't it? And that second step in terms of, okay, how am I going to develop problem solving, for example? That kind of, these are all kind of muscles within those bigger muscles, aren't they? Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So Simon, how can people contact you if they want some coaching?
So we can go to www.simonshawcoaching.com, and you can find my email address there. Yeah, just get in touch, and again, just subscribe to this YouTube channel that we're creating because we can put together, we can answer people's questions, we can take their themes and ideas, and we can do the hard yards for them.
Brilliant, thank you. And if people want to contact me for more information about this, my website is aspirecoachingconsulting.co.uk, or you can contact me by my email address. That's karen@aspirecc.co.uk. Thank you very much. All right.
Well, thanks,
Cheers.
Karen. See you soon.
Yeah. See ya.